Shireen, you got all the good stuff going, okay?
Yes. How are you? Can you hear us?
Yep, loud and clear. Perfect.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is November 18th of 2021 at 2 o'clock. I'm Dave Fogerson, and I would like to call to order today's meeting of the Nevada State Board of Search and Rescue. And I'll ask Shireen to call the roll for us.
First Lieutenant Alex Pinto. Billy Samuels.
Present.
Colonel Carol Lynn. Dan Coverly.
Here.
Joshua Fisher.
Here.
Nick Zagletti.
Here.
Patty Polish.
Here.
Richard Fennelson. Ryan Shane.
Present.
Steve Morris. Dave Fogerson.
Present.
Rodney Wright.
Present.
We are short one for quorum.
I think I did see Buck on here, Richard.
And there's
Richard?
Buck on there.
Oh, okay.
I did see this video.
Sorry, Richard Fennelson for the record.
Okay, Richard Fennelson is here, so we do have quorum.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll move to item number 2 on the agenda. This is public comment for discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until a matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Our legal counsel loves wording that sentence so confusing for me to have to read aloud. And she's not on right now, so I can kind of make a comment about her. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at discretion of chair. Comments will not be restricted based upon viewpoint. To provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in any time after 1:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting by calling the number provided. When prompted after the meeting ID, enter the number that's on the agenda and press pound. If you are calling from a cell phone, you do have to, or from a landline phone, you do have to hit *6 to unmute yourself. We do have YouTube that is streaming and recording for us, and it's about 30 or 60, 90 seconds behind the actual meeting. And so we'll leave the public comment open just for a little bit if no one has any, to make sure that anybody that is watching us on YouTube gets a chance to unmute their phone and connect. So I'll open up public comment. Is there any public comment? And if you're on the phone, you have to hit *6 to unmute yourself in order to talk. Those of us on Zoom, you just have to unmute yourself normally, which is still a technology issue. Given 2 years of using remote technology, we still always forget to unmute ourselves as we talk. Any public comment? Okay, I believe we left it open long enough to catch anybody that might have been on YouTube following along with us. So I will move on to closed public comment. There is public comment at the end of the meeting if anybody has anything else they'd like to come up with. I'll move to item number 3. This is the Nevada Division of Emergency Management Chief Introduction. And this is by Dave Fogerson. And I'm going to provide an overview of the roles and responsibilities of SAR board and brief the members appointed on my expectations. So I appreciate all you guys responding to Rodney's ask to be on the SAR board. NRS places this response within the Division of Emergency Management under NRS 414-180 and asks us to have a board of search and rescue and outlines who I'm supposed to, what type of membership I'm supposed to appoint to the committee. or to the board, because it is a board, not a committee. So the board is supposed to meet at the call of myself at least every 6 months, provide direction and guidance to the coordinator. And the coordinator does under 414-200, I'm supposed to ask with the advice of the board to appoint a member of DEM as a coordinator of search and rescue. We didn't have this board reconstituted at that time, so I appointed Rodney Wright based upon his expectations or his past experience in search and rescue to that item. Obviously, if the board feels differently than that, we can agendize that when we talk about it. And you can provide me recommendations in the future, but he will start us off, and I believe he'll serve us very well in that role. The board's also supposed to formulate policy regarding search and rescue. And this is outlined in law, but obviously we all know how well when a state agency or state board tries to dictate local policy. So we got to remember that the sheriff of the county is responsible for search and rescue, but the board is given some NRS direction to help guide that. But I hope you take that judiciously and correctly, and I'm sure this board will. So that way we use it appropriately and when necessary, and not go too over the top with telling sheriffs how to run their search and rescue teams. I see this more as a stewardship of how do we collectively and collaboratively work together to ensure that we have the search and rescue resources we need in our state. We're supposed to, as the board, coordinate training and techniques of search and rescue. And again, kind of the same corollary back to the formulated policy. There's 1,000 different ways to do things. So maybe not coordinate how we do things, but coordinate and ensure that we get the training that is needed in the state for our search and rescue volunteers and staff members throughout the state. We do have to remember that we don't have a lot of money to do this with. NRS places responsibilities upon us, but does not provide us funding for it. So when we're looking for funding, we typically have to tie it back to one of the emergency management or homeland security niches to get that funding. It also asks us to establish recommendations for organizations specialized in search and rescue and certify organizations which meet those recommendations at the appropriate level. Obviously, we have some search and rescue teams in the state, such as Douglas, that has some international accreditations, and other ones that might not have any. And this is something that this board could talk about in the future about, do we want to make a state standard that people could have something to aim to, or do we like to follow those international standards? Completely tell you, I'm good at technical rescue on the urban search and rescue side. I'm completely void of any knowledge really on the true search and rescue side in the wilderness atmosphere. So that's why you guys are my subject matter experts to help provide advice and counsel back to me so we can do what's right to help everyone in the state. The board's supposed to maintain a list of all organizations certified pursuant to subsection 5 in their resources. This is something that we can actually delegate and Rodney can take care of through the Web EOC program and the resource management program that DM already has. And then carry out any other assigned duties that are assigned to it in this chapter. And it had a couple other duties that were repealed a few years ago, talking about actually making some committee on training and the duties and that, and it was all rolled up into this board. So I'd encourage you to take a look at the NRS 414, the sections on this board, so you understand what you're getting yourself into and what the limits are of what we're looking for and what your rights are, because the law gives you the power to do things, and we need to take advantage of it judiciously and appropriately, just like I know you will. So I also want to spend a couple minutes talking about what my expectations are, because each one of you are here because I've appointed you to the board under the NRS. So everyone's been on these board meetings before, and everybody knows that we get people that want to be on the board meetings because they want to make a name for themselves. And then we have those people that should be on the board because they are actually doing the work. And so I ask that everyone that's been appointed to the board attend a majority of the meetings, because that's how we're going to get the work done. If you're going to be a person that says you want to be on the board, but you don't show up, that I will take my chief's privilege and have you and replace you with someone that does show up to work. I'm pretty happy with the names that Rodney proposed to me, because I know either you guys personally and some of you for a lot of years. And I also know most of you by reputation. And so this board, I think, will be very well constituted to have these discussions that we need to have moving forward. And I think that you guys will all be involved in those discussions. I ask that you participate in the discussions. Chief Samuels and I, we run the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, and there's 36 people on this board on the Nevada Resilient Advisory Committee. and there's about 4 people that talk out of 36. Hopefully with a smaller board, you guys can have good conversation and participate in those discussions. That way we hear, because the board, if you look at who's on the board, it's very well represented between the National Guard, the Civil Air Patrol, and then each of the jurisdictions in the state based upon size and location. There's a nice sampling of those folks included. So I'm not expecting, Sheriff Coverly to represent just Douglas County Sheriff's Office. I'm expecting Sheriff Coverly to kind of represent all of those jurisdictions that he's around with. Same thing with Richard Finelson. I don't expect him to represent all in the state EMS office, but how EMS plays into the search and rescue role based upon the urban settings we have in Clark County or Washoe County, but also the rural settings we have in Oahe and how that impacts search and rescue. So I ask you guys to remember that your employer pays you, but you're on this committee to serve all of us collectively throughout the state. I'd love for you to bring forth ideas. This committee has been kind of forgotten for the last few years through COVID and then through some personnel changes at the division. So hopefully with Rodney's guidance and then whoever you select as your chair, we can rejuvenate this committee and actually come up with some decent ideas that we can implement and make this not just we meet twice a year because the law says we meet twice a year, but we meet twice a year because damn it, there's something we got to talk about and we can fix that and we can all do this together. I'd also like you to help us advance the needs of search and rescue members. We all know that search and rescue is kind of that other duties is assigned for some career employees. And in most of our communities, it's done by a pretty dedicated volunteer staff. And there's not a lot of funding associated with it. So how do we advance their causes? How do we advance solutions to their needs as a collective state to make it that way? If somebody is lost in Nevada, we know we've got the best people possible to go find them. And then one note about rank titles on the membership. You heard Shireen call the roll, and she called everyone by name with the exception of the 2 members in the military. One thing that Chief Samuels and I talked about when I first came to Division of Emergency Management was we would call some people by titles and other people's not by titles. Chief Samuels is actually Deputy Chief Samuels, but people were calling him Chief Samuels. And then we have, Richard Finelson, who's the Emergency Medical Service Program Manager, Officer. And you can see some of these problems that we have with trying to remember titles. So we kind of came to a solution that for military rank, we'd honor those ranks because we know they always stay there and they're pretty easy for us to know because it's embedded in their email titles to us. For the rest of us, we could just go by our names. And that's not to disrespect the elected sheriff of the county, noted fire chief of a fire district, or whoever we got. It just a matter that way we don't disrespect because we called Mr. Finelson Buck instead of calling him by his title. And so hopefully that also makes kind of a cohesive environment where we can have good conversations. And even though we do have those 2 members in the military, we do call by rank titles. Most of the time, those guys will go by their last name or normal name so we can have normal conversations with them. So that's what this board's about. That's what my expectations are of you guys. And I'd love to hear if you've got any questions, comments, concerns about what I'm asking for you. And if you guys think you're up to the challenge of what we need to do to make search and rescue better in our state. So I'll shut up now and see if anybody has any discussion on that.
Hey, Dave, this is Billy.
Go ahead, sir.
It's a pretty diverse group. I'd like to know if we have any notes from any past meetings on what this kind of looked like, just because the jurisdictions that are all being handled are very diverse. So I'd like to know if we have any past history. It might help out a little bit to kind of see where we're going.
Absolutely great point. We'll have staff work on that and see the agendas. Obviously, they did hold public meetings. We'll pull up those agendas and those minutes, and we can send you a link because I believe they're on our website. So either send you a link to the website where they're at, or if they're not on the website, we'll send you the minutes. That way you guys can catch up to where the group was going. But I also challenge you, don't get caught up with only being where they were. Let's figure out where we're going to be in the future. We've all seen the last 2 years, everything we've done is different than what it was before the pandemic and before everything else has transpired over the last 2 years. So respect the history, know where we were, but also figure out where we need to go.
And Chief, this is Rodney. I know I do have hard copies sitting at my desk, but I can look through the files on the shared drive and get them electronically. If I can't find them, I'll just scan what I have and I can send them out to the group.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any other discussions, questions, or issues with any of your obligations and NRS or my expectations from the board? And really, you know, I call them expectations, but like I said, I've known a lot of you guys for a lot of years where I know you by reputation. So I consider more of a challenge for you to know how to go forth and conquer and make us better. Okay, hearing no more comments or questions about my introduction there, I'd like to move on to item number 4, and this is introduction of the Search and Rescue Board by Rodney Wright. Rodney will introduce the membership of the SAR board for everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for being on the board. I know it's been a long time coming for this to get back on track. So thank you again for coming. My idea with this is there are a few people that were here with the past board, but there are a lot of you that are brand new. So what I'd like to do is I'll introduce your name and go around the horn. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, what your duties are at home and what your expectations for this board would be. And then that way we can give everybody on this call a little bit better idea of who you are if they have not met you yet. So I'll go ahead and start here in the room. I have Mr. Ryan Shane with the Nevada Division of Forestry.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here and support and respond to the chief's call for board membership here for the Nevada Division of Forestry. I'm a deputy administrator with the agency presently, and we do have extensive statewide resources that can assist in this mission, probably in a variety of facets, some of which I'm probably going to learn about as I participate in this group. So I won't claim to know a lot about search and rescue, but I do know I've seen our missions play out in coordination with other agencies and in support of them and have found success. So I think we're a valuable player at this table, and I look to honor that commitment by the agency.
Okay. And next I'll go to Mrs. Patty Polish with the Lyon County Search and Rescue. Patty, are you there?
I'm here. I had to change my view so I could unmute. So I've been a member of the Lyon County Sheriff's Search and Rescue for 21 years now. I serve as the division commander, or I oversee all of the search and rescue activities within Lyon County. And what I'd like to see is some more cohesiveness amongst at least the smaller counties, because they're the ones we usually rely on. We rely on Washoe, of course, but some of their training and technology is far different than our training. But it'd be really nice if we could get some, I guess, cohesiveness amongst the groups, because when we call for assistance and we're not all on the same page, it creates problems when we're doing a search. That's my take.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Mr. Billy Samuels.
Billy Samuels, Deputy Fire Chief for Clark County Fire and the Emergency Manager for Clark County. We don't really have, our search and rescue is handled by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. However, our crews do go outside those areas and to assist with some of those operations. Nevada Task Force 1 is under my office, and obviously that's urban search and rescue, so it's a little bit different. But I think we'd be able to tie some of those things together. Obviously, we have SOPs that dictate what the way our operations go when we go off pack. So it's a little bit different, and hopefully we get some better ideas on how the other agencies are working. And with Director Morris, maybe we can get some better ideas on how we can move forward with the search and rescue down here in Vegas and Clark. Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you. Next, I'll go with Mr. Richard Finlayson at the Nevada Emergency Medical Systems Program.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Finlayson, paramedic with the State of Nevada EMS office. Been there for 21 years. Prior to that, 18 years with Remsa Paramedics. Our main duty is certification, licensure, and permitting of agencies and EMTs through paramedic. Hopefully, with being a member of this board, I can assist any of the search and rescue members out there with any certification, licensure questions, concerns, and guide them towards education as required. I've been on the board previously, and I look forward to working with this group again.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, I'll go to Mr. Dan Coverly with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office.
All right, thank you. So as one of the sheriffs, I was asked to be on the board by the Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. So as Dave said, I'll represent the other sheriffs within the state where the responsibility for search and rescue is mandated by NRS. I think, I don't remember who said it, but touching on the certification, I think a statewide certification is good. I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel, but maybe adopt something that is already there and kind of mold it to our use. But that would give us a minimum standard that every team should at least meet. So I think that's a good thing. And then I think our main focus should be as this group is understanding what the resources are available within the state and how each team would access those. And then any kind of, create an easy way to request mutual aid, within the different counties. And then also, I think it's important, especially for where Douglas County is on the eastern side of the state. We do a lot in California with Alpine and El Dorado County. And so maybe coordinating with I don't know if they have a similar group in that state, but just be familiar and understand what their resources are and how we may access those too, being on the state line. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir. On that last part, yes, I do believe they have a Eastern California region. I have been in contact with their search and rescue coordinator out of California, so I'll definitely get with them and see if that's something that we can't put together between our board and theirs.
And also, I mentioned California, but for like Elko County, you would have Idaho and Utah, and obviously White Pine County with Utah. So we may want to inquire of those states also, similarly, like as we approach with California also.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Next, I'll go to Mr. Nick Zagaletti with the Elko County Sheriff's Office.
Hello, my name is Nick Zagaletti. I'm a sergeant with the Elko County Sheriff's Office, and I've been appointed to act as the liaison for search and rescue, because our search and rescue team here is all volunteers. Cheryl Cusperson, who should be joining us soon, is the one who runs the program. I just liaise for them. Been doing it for about 6 years now. Cheryl's been doing it closer to 15, 16 years. Having, worked a number of searches, I would certainly like to know a lot more about the resources, what other agencies have to offer, and be able to offer them help too. We've done fairly well with our local counties, close by adjoining counties, even in Utah, in the state of Utah. We've worked with them a few times and have had great success, but we don't really have any formal means in which to request those resources. And I'd like to see what other people do, how they do it, and hopefully work back and forth. And that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, I'll go to Mr. Joshua Fisher with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Joshua Fisher with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I run our search and rescue team as well as Raven, our regional aviation program. You'll see also here with us today is Alan Chanowski. He is my lead incident management person. So he also helps me out on all our search and rescue and Raven calls that we get. I would like to provide my contact information first of all, because I think that's one of the most important things I'm here for, at least, is to reach out to everybody and kind of see who's out there and absolutely, again, seeing what resources everybody else has. Cell phone number is 775-857-8379. And then my email is jofisher@washoecounty.gov. So that's all available. So to request a resource from Washoe County within the state, the regional EOC, Kelly Echeverra, which probably some people are familiar with, she requests everything to go through her unless you have a friends and neighbors agreement with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, which a lot of my neighbors do. With my group, we have approximately 6 501c organizations that come together to form my search and rescue team, like Hasty, Wixar. I have the Air Squadron, Specialized Vehicle Unit, and a K9 team as well. So I do have some resources on top of our helicopters with Raven. And I do have my own incident management team. Like I said, I have 7 IAM team members, which includes Alan here. But I'm primarily here just to see what I can do to help out this group and connect out, reach out to other agencies to see how they run things and be available.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next I'll see is Colonel Carolyn. Were you able to make the phone call? I received a text that she could come on a little bit later. Okay, hearing nothing. Next board member we have is Steve Morris Jr. Is with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. He was unable to be with us today. He's actually flying back to Las Vegas. He is the director of the search and rescue group through the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department down in Clark County. We have First Lieutenant Alex Pinto with the Nevada Air National Guard. He's also been assigned to this group. He was not able to make it with us today. And then Colonel Carol Wynn is with the Civil Air Patrol Nevada Wing, and she is representing the board as part of the Civil Air Patrol. As for myself, my name is Rodney Wright. I have been with the Division of Emergency Management since March of this year. A little bit about myself. I was a paramedic in Las Vegas for 20 years. I decided to hang up my stethoscope in 2009, continued on in healthcare working at Barton Memorial Hospital, and that is where I actually picked up my first assignment with search and rescue through El Dorado County Search and Rescue in the Lake Tahoe unit in 2013. I since had moved down into Carson City and became part of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the state of Nevada. And I transferred from the El Dorado County Search and Rescue Unit down to the Carson City Search and Rescue Unit, where I'm currently still a volunteer member with them today as part of their incident command team, working at the command post and assisting with resource requests and all kinds of paperwork and stuff that happens at the command post on our searches. So that's a little bit about myself. And again, I thank everyone for coming onto the board, and I hope that we can make this a really good program so that we can improve search and rescue throughout the state, not only for ourselves, but our neighbors, so that those visitors and those residents in our state, when they actually have to make that phone call, we can deliver them the services that they need to hopefully get them back safely. So that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rodney. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, I'll close item number 4, open item number 5. This is election of the SARD board chair and vice chair. This is discussion for possible action. SARD board members will nominate and vote for one member to serve as the SARD board chair and a second member to serve as the SARD board vice chair. So I'll open it up for nominations from the voting members to see who you would like to lead you and who would you like to back that person up by. I would ask that the person actually has to be here, so we can't nominate Lieutenant Pinto for that position since he's not here. Is anybody interested in serving as the chair of this group?
Chair, Dave, this is Billy Samuels.
Go ahead, Billy.
I do not want to serve. However, I would just ask that we could have one at least from the north and one from the south to be able to be part of that committee, or that the chair and co-chair, just so they have those different viewpoints, if that's possible. If there's enough, I don't know if I got to look at the ring at the geographical structure. Though. I don't know if there's enough down from the south.
And I'll leave that completely up to the board to make that decision.
Hey, Dave, Dan Coverly.
Go ahead, sir.
So I nominate Mr. Fisher from Washoe County for the chair.
Okay, we have a nomination for Mr. Fisher for chair. Are there any other nominations for chair? Okay, how about for vice chair? And we'll take this as one motion, but I'm looking for the names first, so that way then you can make a motion out of it. Any nominations for vice chair? Don't everyone jump at once. Maybe we can't do that Southern Nevada thing, maybe do a rural Nevada thing and get someone from one of our rural counties to be involved as a second representative of the leadership of this committee.
So Dave, this is Dan again. How about the, I don't remember the name, but the lady from Lyon County Search and Rescue?
Patty Pollitt.
There you go.
Patty, would you be okay being the vice chair?
I would be fine with that. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor from Dan Coverly for Mr. Fisher as a chair and Mrs. Polish as the vice chair. Is there a second on the sheriff's motion?
Billy Samuels for the second.
Okay. Second from Billy Samuels. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing no discussion, I will take a vote. All in favor of Mr. Fisher and Mrs. Polish as your chair and vice chair, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you both very much. And Mr. Fisher, I would be honored to turn the meeting over to you if you have the agenda in front of you to start running with agenda item number 6.
That was kind of crappy.
Will that work for you?
Sorry about that. I had a phone call. Item number 6, inoperability channels. I guess Richard Berger, is he on here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I guess you wanted to discuss the use of NIFOG and NEVI-FOG radio frequencies.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So just to introduce myself, I've worked with many of you in the past, but my name is Richard Berger. I'm the Nevada Department of Public Safety Radio Administrator. So I've worked throughout the state for interagency communications. I've also been a member of the Washoe County Search and Rescue for 16 years. And I program the radios for them. So I'd like to open up a discussion with the SAR board to start working on including the NIFOG and NEVIFOG channels, frequencies in the radio programs for search and rescue. We're starting to, work together more. And when we do mutual aid, we travel from one county to another county. Communications is always a problem because of licensing issues. For example, if Washoe County goes down to Carson City, or Douglas, I should say, we're not licensed to use our frequencies down there, so we have to use other frequencies. Makes it difficult if we try to, there's 17 different counties in Nevada. If we try to program our radios with every county's frequencies, it gets really unwieldy trying to keep up with, PL tones and changes in the frequencies and what they're using and stuff like that. So my recommendation to the board would be to start working on the use of the NIFOG and NEVIFOG frequencies that are available to us so that we've got standardization throughout the state. It would also help if we have outside agencies from outside of the state and they come in, they should have these frequencies programmed in the radios also. So it would just help us bring the communications together so we don't have quite as many issues. I am working with emergency management to get some of these frequencies licensed statewide in the state of Nevada. So, because right now there's a lot of confusion on whether the licensing is required or not. Most of us are covered under Part 90, but just for clarification, I'm going to be working with emergency management to get the licensing statewide so that we're free to use them when we move from county to county. So this is a discussion only item. So I'll leave it up to the board on if we want to work on promoting this and going in that direction.
So Richard, I know you and I have talked a lot about channels and the different issues, at least we have in our area. My question to you would be, moving to these channels, would it be more of a command channel, a unified command, or a kind of a tactical channel?
It would, depending on what the situation is, it would allow us to set up a command channel, and then other frequencies would be assigned for tactical. So different teams going out in the field can be running on a channel, but we can all talk to each other, because not necessarily are we going to be, if we do an agency assist and one county goes to another county, not necessarily are the teams going to be separated. They may be working together, going out on deployments. And so the ability to have all of these frequencies in everybody's radios would help immensely with communications. So it just gives us more advantage, and then also would clarify things. I know we did a search down in Douglas County one time, and we were in briefing and they said, everybody's going to use orange. Well, Douglas County orange is different than Washoe County orange. So it was standardized, the naming convention also. So there's not as much confusion. And I can work with everybody's communications people. I'm open to doing that and showing them how we've got our radios programmed in Washoe County. And, so as the radios get programmed, I'm in the process of reprogramming all the radios because there were a couple of changes recently for Washoe County for all the agencies. Or all of those teams, so that our radios are consistent throughout the county and teams. So that if our IMT was to say, go to Group 2, Channel 3, everybody's got the same channel on there. So it's just more for, interagency communications, because every time we have an incident, communications always seems to be the one thing that comes up that's got a problem, and this might help with that.
How many channels follow underneath each of those banks? NIFOG and NEVIFOG.
Well, the way right now, the way the county radios or the Washoe County radios are, I've got it's 8 groups of not the channels. The maximum is 16 channels per group. So the way, and just real quick, the way I've got it laid out is group 1 is all the Washoe County stuff. That's the stuff that we would use most of the time. So we would never go to another group unless we're going outside of the county. The group 2 is a mutual aid. We do a lot of stuff with California, so we have some stuff on there that we can work with them. It's also got like the NevCord 1 and NevCord 2. NevCord 1 is, for example, it's actually VMed 28. Nevada renamed it, but it's what CareFlight uses. So if there's any kind of EMS with CareFlight, that's the channel that you would use to talk to CareFlight. And if everybody had that in their radios and CareFlight comes in, then it would be beneficial. Then there's a group. We've got all of the Nevada crossband repeater frequencies in here. So that is actually two groups, maybe group 3 and 4. And then group 5 is NIFOG, NEVIFOG stuff, and group 6 is NIFOG, NEVIFOG. And then group 8 is it's all the weather frequencies. There's 9 of them. So anywhere, whether you go anywhere in the United States, you can get the weather and stuff like that. So there's 8 groups. So it's not a tremendous amount, but it does make it so that we can travel. I know it's a recommendation on the federal level to have these in so that when you travel, so if an agency, I'm not sure if some of the agencies travel to different states, but the other states should also follow these guidelines and recommendations from the feds so that we can communicate anywhere in the United States.
All right. Does anybody else have any ideas or input?
Hey, Josh, this is Rodney. I saw Dave Spencer was here and he had a question about the radios. Dave, are you still on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Dave.
Totally on board with the thought process as you and I have discussed previously. Not familiar with those banks. So in the initial discussion that Richard was where he started, I was wondering whether we were talking 800 megahertz or, standard, that type of thing. And then, from our perspective, we probably have 16 banks of 16, very limited input on what goes on those. But we do work to try to get ones so we can work with Douglas and work with you, et cetera. So, like I said, on board with the thought process completely. Just Richard would know better than me how big a nut that's going to be to crack to get everybody to be able to have the same banks.
Yeah, it's definitely going down the rabbit hole a little bit. I think we would have to first see what each agency that, if we want to entertain this, first of all, and number 2, what everybody has available to them right now, and then see what we can do if we even want to move forward with it.
Yeah, I think.
To answer your question, these are VHF frequencies. The 800 is a completely different bird for us. Right now, we're just concentrating on the VHF, and you don't have to necessarily put all of them in. There's some of them that would be more beneficial for us to have. We can have, like Washoe County, we can put them all in our radios, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you guys need to put them all in your radios. That's where, I can work with all the radio people to find out what they've got and stuff like that. So, it's a part of my job to work with statewide interagency communications. So it's something that we can work on definitely in the future.
Yeah, and from our perspective, we don't do our radio programming. That's done through the city. We're running the VHF right now, but the radios that they purchased for future use are 800 megahertz capable. So I know the city is leaning that direction. When it would happen, I don't know.
And this is Rodney. And one of the things that I'll also remember is that this is also going to be more reaching outside of just search and rescue. Talking with Richard Berger about this topic before, the big thing that came up was the Area 51 project, where a lot of the agencies went down there and there was just absolutely zero communication. So this would have more reaching aspects outside of the search and rescue realm. But this is going to be a good platform. Maybe we can try and push that forward, because we do have that representative from the sheriff's departments who oversee the search and rescue and have the radios that do most of the programming. And so it may, we can also maybe approach it from that angle, as not just for search and rescue. This would be for any kind of response that we'd be doing for any kind of county. And it gives us a leg up on that communication issue that we always seem to have when we go to assist someone else.
This is Billy. I got a question regarding that. Can't we just go like to Encore? Is that the same type of concept? I mean, that's what we all have done on our radios down here in the South. And then I know NHP operate off that as well.
Not everybody works off of the 800. Encore works fine. And the way it works is Metro and Snack have access to Encore talk groups. Not all 16, but only 10 of them they do. The state's radio system, there's 16 talk groups that are Navicar, or excuse me, Encore. And there's a hard gateway patch that goes through between the two systems. So that is how we communicate. The crossband repeaters out there, currently there's 24 sites set up. The new radio system is going to have, I believe, 35 of them statewide. Those would help go between the VHF and the 800 system. And then we can patch and do a lot of different stuff. I don't want to get too technical on that. So that is one method to do that, but most counties are still on the VHF system. This is more of and like Rodney was saying, it would help if we had these frequencies in the radios as the new radio system comes up with the new crossband repeaters. It will give us more ability to connect the different systems together, the 800, the 7-800, the VHF, and stuff like that. So it would definitely help. And I'm thinking of the word, but it's not coming to me right now. But it would help bring in the 800 system, because some of the agencies are moving over to 800, and we need gateways to move them over to the VHF frequencies.
All right, any other discussion about this? Comments? It's kind of a big topic. We'll have to just kind of move it forward and we can talk about it in the background.
Would it be of any benefit perhaps for the sheriff's agencies to submit what we currently have in our search and rescue radios and have someone take a look at it? Because I think the radios are, even some of the radios are maybe a problem with the number of programming channels that there are available, and maybe we could come up with some type of a recommendation based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody wants to submit anything to Richard Berger, that would be the appropriate way to do it. And he can take a look at everything and see what we do have in common and move from there.
Right. And likewise, what I can do is I can give Rodney the what we've got for Washoe County, so that the layout, so that he can submit it out to everybody, so that you can have your radio people look at it and say, we can do this, or we've only got this many and stuff like that. So this is going to be a project, to say the least. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight.
Richard, what's your email address?
It's rberger, Burger, at dps.nv. No, it's not right. At dps.state.nv.us.
Okay, thank you.
The long one.
All right. Any other comments or anything with this topic? All right, we can move on to number 7, the open meeting law. Samantha?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. My name is Samantha Laddick. I'm a Senior Deputy Attorney General for the state of Nevada, and I primarily work with the Division of Emergency Management on their legal issues. And one of my responsibilities is to work with the public bodies that fall under DEM's purview. So that's why I'm here today. And I am aware that I have the least interesting presentation on this agenda, and I'm going to go as quickly as I can for you. I think many of you probably have some, exposure to the open meeting law in your government roles. So you're probably much more in tune to this than most, but let me try to share my screen real quick. And I only have about 6 slides, and we'll get through them as fast as we can. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, Sam, we are.
Thank you. All right, so what is the open meeting law? It exists to ensure that the public bodies conduct government business publicly. I mean, that's the bottom line, with proper notice to the public so they can either listen, participate, share their thoughts. It seems like an easy enough law to follow, but I'll tell you, after doing this for a lot of years, there's a lot of subtleties about the law that can make it complicated. So that's going to be my role with this board, is just to make sure that everybody stays in compliance. I may have to speak up in the meetings if somebody is off agenda, or if there's something we can or cannot do. I just ask you to be patient with me, and I'll try to do the best I can to keep everything on the straight and narrow. So the OML, otherwise known as the open meeting law, is found in chapter 241, and it applies to all meetings of public bodies. This board is a public body based on the definition there in the second bullet point. It's an advisory body. It consists of at least 2 persons. It's supported by tax revenue, and the body is created by statute, specifically NRS 414.180. So now that we know you're a public body, let's talk about how it impacts what you do. I'm not sure, I'm sorry I arrived late today, so I don't know what Dave talked about in his presentation, but these are the statutory duties of the Board of Search and Rescue up here on the board. And, they include meeting a couple times a year, providing guidance to the SAR coordinator, formulating policy, coordinating training, et cetera. What's important to note is that these duties are going to have to be done publicly. This board needs to meet to discuss policy development. It needs to meet to discuss training. No individual on this board can do any of these things without the others. It has to be a collective vote, and it has to be done openly and publicly. So if, say, you want to discuss and potentially recommend a new policy, you'll have to, create an agenda item, possibly make it an action item, and it'll have to be on an agenda for a future meeting. And so it's just important to remember that as these things come up, and we have these meetings only twice a year at minimum, that you may want to consider potential agenda items that you may want board support on, just so we can put them on each agenda and make sure we take care of the business and the duties of this board. There are agenda requirements and there are meeting requirements. And to be honest with you, most of the agenda requirements are going to fall on DEM staff. They're going to be the ones that are responsible for making sure the agenda is posted 3 days in advance of the meeting, that it's posted in the right locations, and that the content of the agenda is accurate, whether it be the time, place, location of the meeting, how to obtain materials. There needs to be multiple periods of public comment and really clear and complete descriptions of all topics. So the DEM staff is going to kind of lead that charge. But the reason I'm bringing it up to you is because they're going to need your support in doing that. I mean, if a agenda is not posted 3 days in advance by 9 a.m., the meeting is going to have to be canceled. So if you're getting emails from Shireen or Rodney trying to get additional information for an agenda item, just try to get back to them as soon as you can, because I know DEM tries to post most of their agendas at least 24 hours in advance of the deadline, just to avoid any potential last minute snafus. So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. There's a bunch of agenda requirements that we have to meet, but once we have the agenda posted, there are also meeting requirements. So you cannot start a meeting without a quorum of members. And for those of you who don't know, a quorum is just the simple majority of membership. On this particular public body, the law sets forth the size of your membership at 10. So in order to start a meeting, you have to have 6 members in attendance. If you don't, the meeting cannot start. Please note that sending a proxy or an alternate would not count towards quorum. In the past, that was allowed under certain circumstances, and the law was clarified in recent years to disallow proxies and alternates. So what that means for you is if you're not able to make it to a meeting, please let Shireen or Rodney know. So if we're not going to have quorum, we can cancel the meeting in advance and not waste anybody's time in getting to the meeting just to have it canceled. So once we have quorum, in order to take action in a meeting, there is a majority vote required. So if you have to have a simple majority of membership, you have to have 6 members to start a meeting. If those 6 members are in attendance and you want to take a vote, you will need 4 members to vote in favor of something for a motion to pass. So it's a majority of members for quorum, and then it's a majority of those who are in attendance to take action on an item. I've also put the recording note on here just so everybody's aware. All meetings are recorded under the open meeting law, and minutes of each meeting are retained. So just be aware that anything you say in these meetings is considered a public record. The last section there is related to in-person meetings, which this is not an in-person meeting. There is no public location on the agenda, but if there were, there are certain requirements for where you can host a meeting. And these are just a few common pitfalls that I've seen over the years where people can get themselves in a little bit of trouble. If there is an email chain going around of the board, just be aware that you have a quorum of members in that email chain. And so it's a really bad idea to hit reply all and to discuss items, because you can create what they would call a walking quorum. And so I just have advised just never to hit reply all when you're dealing with the public body. And I think DEM has implemented some emailing techniques to avoid the possibility of that happening, but just keep that one in mind. Beware of a quorum outside of public meetings. I imagine the search and rescue community in Nevada is not particularly large, so it's probably not hard for a bunch of you to be in a room together. Just be careful not to talk about board business outside of a public meeting. And then of course, we have to plan ahead for agenda items. Every agenda item has to be clear and complete. You know, you don't want to have to stop talking about something because the agenda wasn't clear enough for the public to understand what might have been talked about during a particular item. And then of course, lastly, is you got to stay on the agenda. You are limited to the items that are on the agenda on a specific meeting date. So take it seriously when we review the agendas and make sure you have all the items that you need in order to conduct your business. So I know I went really fast. I did that because I believe most of you are fairly comfortable with the open meeting law. If you're not, please ask me questions. I know we have a new chair and vice chair. If you'd like to have a phone call or a meeting to discuss running a public meeting, please let me know. That's why I'm here. And with that, I'll just open it up for questions or close the item. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? All right. I guess we can move on to item number 8, public comment. It's a discussion only. Is there anybody here for public comment at all? I'm guessing no
This
one.
is Billy Samuels. This is Billy.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, I want to say good job and congratulations to you for taking that nomination and running with it after Dave dropped the ball to you right in the middle of that meeting. So good job handling that fumble and thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Appreciate it. Anything else? I guess on to number 9, the adjournment. Thanks for everybody who came on here, and I'll get with everybody and figure out when our next meeting will be and what will be discussed. So thank you all, and take care. Anything?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, sorry.
And who was that?
This is Billy Samuels.
Thanks, Billy.
Second,
And who's second?
Dan Coverly.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.